All right, so if you're even thinking about building an AI rig in the near future, you have definitely come across the big debate. Should you go for the RTX 5070 or the RTX 5080? Now, they're both absolute beasts from the same family, but, and this is a big but, they are built for very different people. So over the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly which one is the right engine for your AI ambitions.
So yeah, that's the core question, isn't it? Which GPU is going to be the heart of your next AI machine? Are you looking at the super efficient, super capable RTX 5070, or do you need the no-compromise, absolute powerhouse that is the RTX 5080? You know, this choice is going to shape your entire workflow, what you can do, and of course, your wallet. Let's figure this out.
Here's the game plan. First, we're going to look at what these cards have in common, that shared Blackwell DNA. Then, we'll put the specs head-to-head, see what that actually means for real-world AI performance. And finally, we'll get to the verdict and help you find your perfect match.
Okay, first things first. Before we can really get into the differences, we have to understand what makes these GPUs siblings. And that all comes down to the revolutionary Blackwell architecture.
You know, this quote from NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang just nails it. It perfectly captures this moment in time. Seriously powerful AI isn't just for giant data centers anymore. It's right here, running on our desktops, and the RTX 50 series is what's making it all possible.
So what's the big deal with Blackwell? Well, the real game changer here is the support for these new precision formats, FP8 and FP4. The best way to think about it is this. Instead of using big, complex numbers for every single calculation, the GPU can use smaller, simpler ones for certain AI tasks. This lets it chew through AI models way faster, using less VRAM, and it does it all without really losing any accuracy. It's kind of the secret sauce for this whole generation's incredible efficiency.
Okay, now let's get to the numbers. This is where we can really see how this shared DNA splits into two very different levels of performance. This is where the battle lines are really drawn.
And here it is, the head-to-head. Right off the bat, you can see the 5080 has the lead pretty much everywhere. More CUDA cores, more memory, you name it. But don't get bogged down in the numbers just yet. We're about to break down the key metrics that really matter for AI, starting with the raw horsepower.
Just look at that gap in raw processing power. It is massive. With nearly 75% more CUDA cores, the RTX 5080 is just in a different league. When you're training an AI model, you're doing millions of things at once, and this spec right here can literally be the difference between waiting a few minutes for a result versus waiting hours.
Okay, this next one, AI TOPS, that's trillions of operations per second, is even more direct. This is a pure measure of how fast those specialized tensor cores can crunch AI-specific numbers. The 5080 has almost double the throughput, which means it can handle complex model layers and inference tasks much faster. It's not even close.
You know, a good way to think about this is to imagine the VRAM as the GPU's disk space, and the bandwidth is how fast it can grab papers off that desk. Well, the 5080's wider memory bus gives it way higher bandwidth. What that does is reduce bottlenecks, and that is absolutely critical when you're feeding the GPU huge data sets or working with high-res generative AI. So, we've looked at all the specs. We've thrown a lot of numbers at you, but what does a higher CUDA core count or more bandwidth actually feel like when you hit run on your script? Let's translate all these numbers into what really matters: practical performance.
In practice, the difference becomes really clear. The RTX 5070 is an amazing card for using AI, running pre-trained models, generating images, even doing some light fine-tuning. But the 5080, well, the 5080 is a development workhorse. It has the raw power to train smaller models from scratch and to fine-tune much larger, more complex ones.
And honestly, this might be the most practical difference of them all: the VRAM. That extra 4 gigs on the 5080 is your insurance policy against that dreaded out-of-memory error that we all hate. It just lets you load bigger models, use bigger batch sizes to train faster, and work with longer context windows in your language models, all without having to constantly fight with your code.
All right, crunch time. We've covered the architecture, we've dug into the specs, and we've talked about what it all means in the real world. So it's time to bring it all together and figure out which one of these GPUs is your perfect match. It really just comes down to who you are as a user. The RTX 5070 is the perfect choice for AI enthusiasts, for hobbyists, for people who are mostly focused on running models. The RTX 5080, on the other hand, is for the serious developer, the researcher, anyone who needs that extra headroom to not just use AI, but to actually build and train.
And in the end, your decision probably comes down to this classic trade-off. The RTX 5070 gives you fantastic performance per dollar and sips power at just 250 watts. The RTX 5080, well, it asks for a bigger investment up front and a beefier power supply, but what you get in return is a level of performance that can seriously accelerate your work.
Now, we've covered the big highlights today, but there is always more to learn. If you want to take a much deeper dive with a ton more benchmarks, the full source for this explainer is waiting for you over at bestgpusforai.com. And of course, as promised, we've put that link for you right in the description below. And that brings us to our final thought for the day. The RTX 5080 is an absolute titan right now. But AI models, they're getting bigger and more complex at a truly exponential rate. So it leaves us with a really important question for anyone investing in this hardware. In this relentless race of AI development, how long will today's best actually be good enough for tomorrow?